Well, if you take your syllabus, and we're going to start off on page 1, and the name of this series is called The Power of Expectation. And you'll see there on that first page, I put a definition of expect. Okay, to expect is to look forward to, regard as likely to happen, anticipate the occurrence or the coming of, as in, I expect to read it. I expect him later. She expects that they will come. And expect implies confidently believing, usually for good reasons, that an event will occur. Anticipate is a synonym of expect. It's to look forward to an event and even to picture it. Like, do you anticipate success? And that's going to be a really important thing here, picturing what you want, picturing what you're expecting. Yeah, like you picture the event happening. Like, do you anticipate success? And Psalm 62, verses 5 through 8, this is kind of like the theme verses for this series. My soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from Him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory. The rock of my strength and my refuge is in God. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory. The rock of my strength and my refuge is in God. Trust in Him at all times, ye people. Pour out your heart before Him. God is a refuge for us. Selah. So, my soul, wait thou only upon God, for my expectation is from Him. Yeah, that's good. And we're going to start seeing through this series, what kind of things can we expect from God? And there are a number of things that God tells us in His Word that we can expect. And this is from the New Living Translation, Psalm 62:5. I wait quietly before God, for my hope is in Him. I wait quietly before God. That's a neat mind picture, isn't it? Quietly waiting before God. And this is the Young's literal translation of that. Only for God be silent, O my soul, for from Him is my hope. So this expectation implies confident believing. And here's a verse that goes right along with that. Matthew 21:22. In all things, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Now, how many limitations are you seeing here? I don't see many limitations on this. Well, that's pretty neat. No limitations. All things, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. And one place that God never tells us to look to expect from, He never once tells us to look to the government. He never tells us to look to other people. And He never tells us to look to ourselves. It's only to Him. He is our source. That's what I love. I have only one source. God has millions. God has actually billions of sources. But I have one source, God. My expectation is from Him. This is from the NIV, Psalm 146:3. Do not put your trust in princes, in mortal men who cannot save. Well, that's pretty clear, isn't it? Mortal men cannot save. Do not put your trust in princes. And I would think that that would also include like houses of Congress, presidents, state representatives. Don't put your trust in those. It says here pretty clearly, do not put your trust in princes, in mortal men who cannot save. And this is from the New American Bible, Psalm 20, verse 8. Some rely on chariots, others on horses, but we on the name of the Lord our God. That's where we look to. God only. God only. And I know that here in this country, in the last election, there were a lot of people that were thinking that, hey, now the government's going to do something for me. And one thing I want to let you know about government is that governments only have what they take from somebody else. You know that? Government doesn't have anything that it generates on its own. It only has what it takes from somebody else. And some people might think, hey, well, that's a good thing. take it from somebody who has it and give it to me, then where is your source? If I'm doing that, where is my source?
Amen.
Yeah, and I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to look to God only. My expectation is from Him. And look, it's either from God or it's not. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. And you know what? The last class I taught here a little while ago, I brought some duct tape. And I brought some again, okay? And this duct tape is, in case somebody gets so angry at what I share, you might think your head's going to explode. Okay, just tear a piece off here. Okay, so we got duct tape here. In case somebody wants it, if you think your head's going to explode because you get so upset with me, then please just grab some duct tape because we don't want any exploding heads. But we do not look to the government to take care of us. Look, governments fail. People fail. Only God is going to come through for us every single time. And when you read the Bible and you see how God took care of His people, even in the worst of times, famines. There's a record that you can read about Isaac, that during a famine, Isaac planted corn and he reaped a huge harvest in a famine. Well, how could he do that? Did he find some genetically altered corn that Dow Chemical came up with for him? No, he looked only to God. God was Isaac's source. And when God is our source, I'm telling you, every single time you look to God, He will, I guarantee, as Justin Wilson used to say, I guarantee God will come through for you. The governments can run out of money. You know that? They can run out of people to tax. God will never run out of a supply for you. So I want to ask you these questions. What are you expecting from God? What are you expecting from Him? How about what are you looking forward to from God? What are you regarding as likely to happen from God for you? And really, these are some good questions to think about. Because if we are just blowing around through life like having a balloon with air in it, you let the balloon go, and the balloon goes, and you're not picturing what you want, going to God, asking God for things, what can you expect from Him? What are you anticipating from God? What are you regarding as likely to happen for you? These are good questions, things for us to think about. And we can turn to other people, right? We could go ask, I could ask Yulia, Yulia, what do you think? What's your opinion? I could say, Paul, what's your opinion? Robert, what's your opinion? Jai, what do you think? Chrissy, what do you think? And I'm going to get a lot of variety in my answers. But if we want to know what can you expect from God? Well, we need to go to what God said. There are things that God said and there are things God never said. There are things God said we can expect from Him. You know that? There are things we can't expect because God said it. Romans 10:17 says, "So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God." So the things that God said, what God said, is going to produce something in my life. It's going to produce. And that word, that first word by, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. The first word by there is this Greek word ek. It means out of. Out of. It's like springs out of. Yeah, faith comes out of hearing. Hearing, hearing, hearing. So it doesn't say stress and strain on my part. Like I'm going to really try to believe. I'm going to try hard. I receive it by faith. I receive it by faith. I receive it by faith. No, it doesn't say faith comes by straining, does it? It says faith comes by hearing, out of hearing. So what I do is I provide these two things on either side of my head. They're called ears. I hear. I listen. And listening is not just being exposed to a great teaching. Wow, that was really cool. What's for dinner? But hearing implies carefully listening, thoughtfully considering what's being said. And then you make a decision. I receive that. You make the decision. I receive that. And as you hear, as you listen, you make that decision. I accept that. what comes out? Faith, faith, faith. And all things whatsoever we shall ask in prayer, believing we shall receive. From God. From God. So what I would like to ask you to do is just give up every other source. Give it up. Okay? Give up government. Give up other people. Give up yourself. And just go to God. God will never, ever let you down. Never let you down, even one time. So there are things that God said that we can expect from Him, and there are things God said we can't expect from Him. And I want to know the difference, don't you? Because, I mean, if God's got something that I can expect from Him, that I can anticipate as likely to happen, that I can even picture it, that it's going to happen, I want to know what those things are. Yeah, baby, I want it all. I want the whole enchilada. I don't want a little bit, I don't even want half. I want all. Everything that God's got for me. So here's something that God never said. God never said He'll give you something evil to make you a better person. You ever hear anybody say that? I have, or it's been inferred. Well, maybe God's doing that to you to make you a better person. Well, God never said He's going to do that. How about pain and suffering are His way of teaching us? I've heard that. But this is one of those things God never said. And so you might even hear that from some sincere person. Well, brother, well, sister, God, they usually say God is going to give you something evil to teach you. Yes, this pain and suffering is God's way of communicating to you. Well, God never said that.
Like Hurricane Katrina?
Right. Yeah. Hurricane Katrina. How about this? God never said you're on your own. Or God's holding out on you. Like as if He could help you, but He won't. That's not God. That's not our Father. My mom had this saying when I was a kid that just, I never understood it, and now I know why. But she used to tell me, God helps those who help themselves. And the way I interpreted that was, I'm on my own. I better do this myself. Because God ain't coming through for me. So I better help myself. No, you know who God helps? Those who look to Him. All things, whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing you shall receive. All things. And whom do we ask? We ask God. Right. God. And God's ears are always open. 24/7, 365 days a year. Every day of the year. 24 hours a day, God's ears are open. And there may be very powerful or influential people that we want to help us. But God is above them. See? And say you have a few friends or family members or acquaintances that are very, very powerful, very influential people. And you think, I'm going to go ask Joe Powerful, and Joe Powerful will help me. Well, what if Joe Powerful says no? Or he says, I can't help you. Well, God will never let you down. God is on your side. And this Proverbs 29:18 is a really, really wonderful verse. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And I love this from the Telugu translation. It's where there is no knowledge of God, the people wander aimlessly. Well, hello, that sounds kind of like Christianity in the world today. People wandering aimlessly. You know, God's going to give me something evil to teach me a lesson. Or God might hold out on me. No wonder people are wandering aimlessly. Yeah. And how many people in the churches today have the same troubles that people outside of church have? And I'm not just talking about church buildings, but any group, any ministry, any organization. How many people within these Christian organizations have the same problems? The sicknesses, taking antidepressants, you know, whatever else, happy pills, because life really stinks. Well, they're wandering aimlessly. How many broken marriages are there? How many out-of-wedlock births are there? People wandering aimlessly. Well, look, God doesn't want us to wander aimlessly. Where there is no knowledge of God, people will. And so we need to know, what can we expect from God? And what can we not expect from Him? So let's look at this list. This is actually a very short list of things that we can expect from God. But since we only have 6 hours to do this, I figured I better keep it short. And here's one thing. This is from the American Standard Version, 3 John, and this is verse 2. It says, "Beloved, I pray that in all things thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." Well, guess what? You can anticipate that and even picture that as likely to happen in your life. And not just likely to happen, but absolutely. You can absolutely expect. And that's from God. From God. And I'm not just talking about, well, now I'm just going to sit home in my living room with my hands open. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not talking about that. But God is your source. God is your source. And He says, all things you may prosper and be in health. Well, that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? Really, folks, if you have prosperity and health, those two things, if you are prospering and you're in health, what else do you need? That pretty much covers it right there. So we can just say, okay, that's the end of the list. But no, there's more. How about Psalm 103:3? "Who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases." That's something you can expect from God. You, me. So how many is all your iniquities? That's like all of them. Every one of them. God forgives all of them. How about who heals all your diseases? God does that. That's what we can expect. And I put these cartoons throughout your syllabus. There are a bunch of different things in here. But there are people, like this one guy here who's chained to the wall with a smile on his face. You see what he's thinking about? He's not thinking about, man, this place really stinks. I hate it in here. This is awful. No, he's picturing in his mind saying, bye-bye to the prison. Adios, prison. See you later. And then at the bottom of that cartoon, that's him talking about it. Telling him how it happened. Even in dark circumstances, even if things look really bad, where are your thoughts? Where are my thoughts? What words are coming out of our mouths? We're going to look at this later, but I think this is a really appropriate time to say this. You know, when God made, formed, and created the earth, and that first heaven and earth got messed up, and then God went about to reform it, He said, let there be light. And you know what God didn't do? He didn't say, man, it's really dark here. This is awful. It's so dark. Look at how dark it is. I'll never get out of this. What did God do? Spoke words. Let there be light. Didn't complain about how dark it was. Here's Deuteronomy 8, verse 17 and 18. This is God talking to the children of Israel, but this is something we can learn from here. And say in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. See what I did. I'm a self-made man, brothers and sisters. Yes. No. Not a good idea. But, and but is a good word. You know that? Because but sets in contrast that which comes before. So you don't want to say, where do you say that? In your heart. Say in your heart. My power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is He that giveth thee power to get wealth. So who gives you power to get wealth?
God.
God. Wow. So wouldn't it be a good idea to look to Him for that? I mean, you know, wealth is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I like the idea of that. But it's God who does that. The Lord your God, it is He that giveth thee power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant which He sware unto thy fathers as it is this day. Okay, here's something else you can expect from God. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Okay, so something we can expect from God is power, love, and a sound mind. Well, that sounds like a good thing too, doesn't it? That sounds very good. And this is from the Revised Standard Version, 2 Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance. Who does that? Yes. See, not some man-made entity. God, the Lord your God. He'll provide you with every blessing in abundance so that you may always have enough of everything and may provide in abundance for every good work. And I like to throw in these different versions of the Bible, not to keep you off balance. Like, what's she talking about? Where's that from? But so that you can have a fresh perspective on these verses. Because I know Robert and I were talking about this. So sometimes when I read the Bible, it's like I've read that verse in the same version over and over and over, and I get the glazed eye look when I'm reading. It's like, oh, okay, I've heard that. And it just goes, whoosh. But if I look at it from a different version, sometimes I see it in a new light. It opens my eyes like, yeah, God is going to do this. God will provide in abundance for every good work. And do you see, as we're looking at what we can expect from God, what are the limitations on this?
There are none.
Yeah, there are none. See, God is limitless. He is limitless. Philippians 4:19, but my God shall supply all your need according to His riches and glory by Christ Jesus. That's something else you can expect from God. That God shall supply all your need. God shall do that. Proverbs 20, verse 7. The just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. That sounds good. See, prosperity and health, we could stop there and life would be really good. But how about having your children blessed after you? Yeah, wonderful. Sign me up. Count me in. See, I want these things. These are what we can expect from God. Proverbs 4:20-22. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. So that sounds like there's something that's up to me to do, doesn't it? And that's something that we're going to start seeing through the course of this study, is that there are things that are up to us to do. It's not like we just become a Christian and all of a sudden, wow, everything falls into my lap. Yeah, there are some wonderful things that are going to happen, but you need to be part of the equation here. I do too. And what we see here is, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them depart from thine eyes. Is that what it says? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, come on, look. It's just a little word. Oh, it's only 3 letters. Big deal. Whoa, no. Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of your what?
Heart.
Your heart. And I really like that facts lodge in the head. Facts lodge in my head. You know that? Like the War of 1812 was fought between the United States and Great Britain. And from 1812 to 1815. That's a fact. Does that change your life? Does that stir you in any way? Not me. But see, when I start hearing more of the story, Francis Scott Key standing on the deck of a warship, and Baltimore Harbor, Fort McHenry there, and the bombarding starts. Boom, boom, guns opening up. Francis Scott Key standing there on the deck of that warship, and the next morning, he strains over the railing to see, is the flag still there? Is it still there? And he wrote that poem that now we have as a song. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, were still gallantly streaming. Now that starts to get to me. Yeah, that starts... You didn't come here for my singing, I know that. That's just a lucky strike extra. You didn't know how blessed you were, did you? So, look, the more you get into the message, the story, yeah, it'll start getting to you here. Because facts will dislodge here. So we don't want these verses just to be mere facts to us. So we ask God, teach me, show me, open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart, Father. Teach me about you being my source. So this is something else we can expect, that the words that God said, again, what God said, they're going to be life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Hebrews 13:5, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. So that's something you can expect from God, that God will never leave you. God will never leave you or forsake you. So that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me. And that's a big one right there, the fear of man. And it's ironic to me that this couch here would never offend me. You know that? I have nothing to fear from this couch. It will never offend me. It will never call me a bad name. It will never tell me I'm stupid. It will never let me down either. It'll never say I'll be there at 9 o'clock and be there at 9:35. It'll never do that. But people, yeah, that's where we have the interesting dynamics in those relationships. Well, God, your Father, will never leave you or forsake you. That's something you can expect from Him. That He will never leave you once. He will never forsake you. So that you may boldly say, the Lord is my helper. I won't be afraid what man shall do unto me. This is from the English Standard Version, 1 Peter 2:24. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. I love that. So that just kind of settles that whole issue of, is God really willing to heal? He's already done it. So that settles it. So is God going to give you some evil thing to teach you a lesson? I mean, come on. Especially since He never said that. By His wounds, by the wounds that Jesus Christ took, you were healed. Past tense. So yeah, we need to appropriate some of that stuff. Right? Well, how do we get it? By saying, I'll never have that. I'll always be... Nope. We're going to get into your mouth later in this study. That's one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, is our mouths. Because our mouths are weapons. Yeah, they are weapons.
Of mass destruction?
Yes. Or mass instruction. And we're going to see that very, very much here. In Psalm 147:3, here's something else we can expect from God. He healeth the broken in heart. God heals the broken, and where? In the heart. Do you see how much heart comes up here? Heart, not your head, your heart. God heals the broken in heart. And this word broken, it's shattered in pieces. Like you drop a glass off the countertop and... And look, I'll just be perfectly frank with you. Yeah, we're all in some form of recovery, folks. Every last one of us. We live in a fallen world. There's nobody that's got it all together, all dialed in, all sewn up. Yeah, the blows that we take in this life, they do leave wounds on us. Well, who's going to heal the broken in heart? God will. Your Father. God. He'll do that. That's something you can expect from Him. And John 14:13, from the English Standard Version, whatever you ask in my name, this will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. Whatever you ask in my name. In John 16:23, in that day you will ask nothing of me. Truly, truly, I say it to you, whatever you ask of the Father in my name, He will do it. Wow. Where's the limitations there? You see, what we're going to find out is the limits come from here. They come from me. That's where the limits come from. The limits don't come from God. And what I want to do is start getting rid of those limitations that I put on me. Yeah. Because really, we're going to find out that nobody can determine your future but you. Only you. Look at what God's made available to you. What you can expect from God. How much do you want? Really, how much do you want? It's all available to you. So nobody, no human institution, no man, no woman, no government can determine your future. Only you can. And this is from the American Standard Version, 1 John 5:14. And this is the boldness which we have toward Him, that if we ask anything according to His will, He hears us. So you can start seeing this is kind of a trust thing that we're going to get together here with God, a trust thing. And sometimes trust is not an easy thing to develop with people. If you've been burned, people have let you down, things like that. But this is a relationship that we're going to be developing with God to learn to trust Him more and more, to know that when He says something, what God said, that He shall do it for you. He shall. That when God says, I will never leave you or forsake you, that He will never leave you. That when He says, I shall heal the broken in heart, that He'll heal the broken in heart. That when He says, I'll provide all your needs for you, He shall do that. But you see, what's up to us is where are we looking? Where are we looking? See, where are the limits? Because I'm putting the limits on God. If I'm saying, well, maybe God will let me down here. Maybe God won't come through, so I've got to do something. We don't ever want to take our eyes off of God. Never. And there's a lot of stuff in this life that is not going to encourage us, right? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't encourage us. Sometimes each other, we don't encourage each other. And we should, but we don't always. But here it says in John 10:10, the thief comes not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. So that's something that we can expect, that Jesus Christ came to give us life more than abundantly. And doesn't that sound great? So we, as believers, we need to understand God's intentions for us. And all these things that we've seen, and these are not all of them that we can expect. This is just a short list. But of all these things, can you see how God's intentions for you are good? Can you see that? That He has no bad intentions for you at all. None. Absolutely none. But there is a thief. And that thief comes not before to steal and to kill and to destroy. So God's intentions are opposed in your life. God's intentions are opposed. You need to know that. So when you're expecting things from God and something comes to steal, kill, and destroy, you're not going to blame God for that. But how many times when we get stolen from, killed, and destroyed, like our dreams are killed, our hopes are destroyed, or even physical death happens, whom do we blame? Do we blame God? God was holding out on me? God could have come through for me and He didn't? No, we're seeing that God's intentions for us are only good. But there's something that's up to us. We're going to be participants with God. It's almost like a game. I don't want to lower life to that level, but just bear with me. Okay? We don't just sit there in a game like you're playing basketball and leave your arms at your sides. The ball goes bounce off your chest. Or play football, whether it's English football or American. No, you get in the game. You need to learn the rules. You need to learn how to handle the ball. Whatever it is. There's something up to us in playing a game. Well, in this, there are things that we need to learn, that we participate too. And we have an enemy that is opposing us, who comes not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. And one of the ways he does that is he gets us to look away from God and put our hope in something that can't save us. Man, government, our friends, our husband or wife. This God of this world, this devil, wants us to look away from God and put our gaze on something of man or myself. I'll do it. I'm on my own. I got to do this myself. Man, how many times have I got sucked into that? And the results have always turned out the same. It's blown up in my face at some time. So, what does God say about you? Is He willing to help you? Because see, as I'm reading these verses, but all these wonderful things that you can expect from God, there may be this little recorded message that comes up in your mind. Yeah, that's great, but what about this? Or why did that happen? Or, yeah, God could have done that. Or, yeah, but that's not me. I'm just a worm. You know, maybe that little recorded message comes up in your mind. Well, that's because the thief, who comes not before to steal and to kill and destroy, he works through the world, the flesh, and through the devil, which is, spirits and his hosts. So the world, the way the world's set up, it's not friendly to the things of God, is it? Well, actually, no. It's like diametrically opposed to the things of God. And the flesh, that's the traitor within. The weak nature that wants to say, well, I guess really I am not worthy. Well, we don't make any agreements with our enemy. No, and that's not any person, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. No, we don't make agreements with the enemy like, yeah, I guess I am a bad father. Or, yeah, I guess I always do that. I never have. Now, we're going to start learning that as we're expecting things from God, we need to turn things around. Because you notice in these cartoons here that these people in these cartoons who achieve some kind of victory, that they're doing something. Like this guy here sitting in that nice chair with his smoking jacket, silk smoking jacket, with his pipe, and he's talking about how there he was in poverty with bill collectors jumping around him, calling him names, and they're not saying, we love you, we'll give you one more chance. But do you see how it's through the world, the flesh, and the devil? These attacks come. Well, what's this guy doing with his mind when all the circumstances say no? What's he doing with his mind? He's picturing himself up to his neck in money. And I know that's kind of a goofy example, but hey, look, just bear with me. And he's discussing this with that guy who's got his mouth wide open like, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, but do you see how we need to take the initiative here? There's something we do need to do as we're looking to God. We need to keep our minds on Him, to keep Him there. So what does God think about you? Is He going to hold out on you? Now this is what God, these are some of the things, not all of them. These are just some of the wonderful things that God, your Father, thinks about you. Behold, that means look. What manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knows us not, because it knew Him not. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when He shall appear, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. And that word now, that's like right now. And when Elias was in 3rd grade, he came home with a spelling list. And I said, hey, Elias, let me see your spelling list. And he had this little strip of paper there with some words on it. And one of the words was now. And I said, Cool, Elias. How do you spell now? And he said, N-O-W, proudly. And I said, great, man. Good job. That's how you spell now. What does now mean? And he looked at me like it's a trick question. And he says, now means now? And I said, right, Elias. That's right. You know more than 90% of the theologians out there that now means now, right now. So if a third grader can figure that out, how about us? Now are we the sons of God. So what does God think about you? How does God see you? What does God say about you? Galatians 4:7, wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Well, what does God have? As you're an heir of God. Is there any limit there to your potential? What can you expect from God? What are you looking forward to from God? What are you thinking is likely going to happen in your life from God? You're an heir of God. What can you expect? Can you see how you can get your expectations up really high? And some people will say, oh, don't get your hopes up, brother, sister. Don't get your hopes up. Well, you know what? I'm here to tell you, get them up. Get them up way high. Yeah, get them up way high. Because God is on your side. These are what you can expect from Him. Do you see the limits God's putting on you? No limits! No limits! The limits come from me. So I want to stop doing that, don't you? Yeah, how about if we all agree we'll stop doing that? Can we do that? All right, let's stop putting limits on God. That'd be wonderful. If that's the outcome of this class, that you'll have no more limits on God, then I've done my job. Yeah! No limits, man! Imagine what you could do if you had no limits. That's where we're getting to. But the limits come from what we allow. See, nobody can make you. Nobody can force you. But they'll try. They'll give you the look. Yeah, the look. Right? I've gotten the look. The shaming. The thinking, well, I better not try because I failed last time. Well, we're going to get God involved in this. And we're going to start rooting out, tearing down those structures that you've allowed to be built in your mind. And I want to tell you something, that I have discovered that I cannot control how you treat me. You know that? I'm not responsible for that, how you treat me. I'm not responsible for how you treat others. But you know what I am responsible for? I'm responsible for how I treat you and how I treat other people. That's what I'm responsible for. So however you treat me, I'm not responsible for that. And I died to me, in fact. I died to me, so I'm free from you. I love you, but I'm free from you. And you're free from me. And you're free from other people. Yeah, when you die to self. When you know that you died, you were crucified with Christ. I'm free from you. And that's such a great freedom to have. But you see, these limits that we put on ourselves, or we allow others to put on us, we're going to start breaking those down, man. Yeah. Are you starting to see some more possibility in your life? Anybody here starting to see some more possibility? Some more potential there? Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, let's keep on that track. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, because if you're starting to get excited, that's great. That's what I wanted. Look, this would be perfectly useless if this was just another Bible class. Like, oh yeah, great, I got that one under my belt. Another notch on the gun. Yeah, I got it. Okay, great, took that class. Look, if nothing happens in your life after this is useless. It's pointless. But if this Word of God stirs something in you, and you see, hey, yeah, the only limits on me are from me. The only one that can determine my future is me. Look, nothing is set in stone. It's all wide open. I love this message from God. And see, this is good news, isn't it? Well, hello. I mean, that's why Christianity is called good news. Because limits are bad news. Well, you can't do that. You're not ready. You have to do this. Oh, you're not that kind of person. Hey, look, you know what kind of person I'm not? I'm not an auto mechanic. You know, I can change oil and find spark plugs if I have to, but you know, that's not something I'm drawn to. But the things I'm drawn to, yeah, I can do those. And that's what I want you to find. Find those things you're drawn to. What do you like to do? What are you good at? What would you do as a hobby? That natural inclination you have, that's where you'll find that your gifts are and your natural inclinations. What are you drawn to? It's no big secret. I wonder what my gifts are. What do you like to do? Where are you drawn? I am not an auto mechanic. And you know what? I don't lose any sleep over that. Oh God, why am I not an auto mechanic? Why can't I tear my engine apart and put it back together? Really, I think, who cares? But there are other people who say, oh man, let me look at that engine. Let me get in there. Hey, whoa, what's that? Oh yeah, look at that. And that's not me. And you know, I'm okay with that. Because I died to me. So I'm not going to let other people say, oh, you're not an auto mechanic? What kind of guy are you, man? I don't care. I know what God has put in me. And I want you to know what God has put in you. So you can go that way. Yeah, go that way. Go that way. And you're going to find so much more opening to you when you go with that gifting, where your natural inclination is. So you know when that really became real to me? People would say, I don't know if I have the talent for art. And I'd say, okay, well, let's find out. What do you like to do? Do you like to do art? Yeah, and they say, yeah, I'd like to do art. Well, guess what? You have some gifting in that area, and it's going to take a little time to develop it, right? You don't just become Michelangelo, like, I'm going to decide to be an artist. Where's the Sistine ceiling I can paint? No, there's some training involved, right? Little expertise to be developed. But if you like to do art, then I'd say you've got a gift in that area. Go with it. But spiritually, it's the same way. What do you like to do? Do you like to teach? Do you like to help? Do you like to instruct? Do you like to comfort people? Do you like to show mercy? Do you like to organize meetings or whatever? Then that's where your gifting lies. And go with that. See, God is not going to put limits on you. God's not going to do it. But see, man might. And man will. Oh, you can't do that. No, you can't do that because you haven't had such and such a class. Or you haven't had so much training. No, whatever your inclination is, I'm going to push you in that direction. Romans 8:17. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. Where are the limits on that? Absolutely not there. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. And Galatians 3:29, and if ye be Christ, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise. And folks, if you've looked at Abraham's promise, the blessing of Abraham, he's called the heir of the world. Wow. And I'm a partaker of that? Yeah. Where are the limits here? This is what God thinks of you. You see, we've got to get that old thinking out of the way that, well, I'm just a saved sinner or something like that. We've got to get that stuff out of the way. And those old recorded messages in our minds that say, well, I'll just never, I'll always be. My mom told me I was, maybe they're just real quiet messages, but they're there that come up when you hear something really great about what God says about you. And that little voice is like, well, but maybe it's just not true. We don't want to go with that. We want to keep going with the Word so that the Word becomes that little message. Yeah, God's on my side. God's never going to leave me. He'll always provide for me. He will always provide for me. In every situation. Romans 5:17, for if by one man's offense death reigned by one, much more they which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life Well, that's a far cry from I'm just a worm. In one of these prisons I go into in Muskegon, I've gone to their chapel services, which is just on the basketball court there, the inside in the gymnasium. They set up chairs, and Jim Schmidt and I were going in there to preach on Sundays. It was like every other Sunday we'd go in, and they would sing this song, "Don't Pass Me By." I don't know if you ever heard that, but it's something God never said. And these folks are in church singing, "Oh, don't pass me by," as if God's going to pass you by. I want to skip down to this, what God never said. God never said you're just a saved sinner. You're just a worm and you're not worthy of the goodness of God. God never said that you're not worthy. That you have to earn His favor or His love. God never said that. See, folks, God is love, right? That's what God is. So does my good behavior change what God is? No, I can't change God. How about my bad behavior? Is that going to change what God is? No, God is love. He's my source. As I keep my eyes focused on Him, He's going to change me. As I keep my eyes on Him. So what can we not expect from God? As we're seeing some of the things we can expect, what can you not expect from God? And we saw that there is a thief, right, who opposes the things of God in your life. James 1:13, "Let no man say when he is tempted, I'm tempted of God." Okay, so don't say that then. "For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth He any man." So if you're tempted with evil, that's not God doing that. Hebrews 2:14, "For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, He also Himself likewise took part of the same, that through death He might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil." So who had the power of death? The devil. So that's something that you cannot expect from God. Well, that's comforting. I'm glad to know that. See, I need to know that when I'm tempted or evil things come up, I need to know where they're coming from. What's the source? It's not God. How about 1 Thessalonians 5:9? "For God hath not appointed us to wrath." Whew. Great, so I can know I'm not going to go through the wrath. That whole book of Revelation period. That's something else I don't expect from God. How about this? Jeremiah 29:11. This is a mixed story here in this verse. "For I know the thoughts I think toward you, saith the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not of evil." So God is not going to be thinking evil of you. Not God. That's something you don't expect from God, for Him to think evil. But you can expect Him to have thoughts of peace toward you. Yeah, you. You. And we've seen by the verses of things that we can't expect from God, that's some of the things that we can expect. That God will give us, like He'll answer our prayers. Prosperity comes from God. Health comes from God. All these good intentions that God has for us. And yet we get mixed signals sometimes from the other Christians in the world. Well, let's take a break now. How about that? We'll just take a break. And we'll come back to this on page 6, okay?